Hi guys, welcome to a video, and in today's video we're just going to be discussing the controversial Bette and Tina scene in the L Word Season 1 Episode 14, Limb from Limb. I've been asked to talk about this particular scene a few times and I know there's a lot of polarized opinions on it. It's a topic of spicy debate in the T-Bet fandom. This scene is very controversial. So I just wanted to break it down in this video and give you my 2 cents. As a disclaimer, there's nothing explicit in this video, but there will be a mention of sexual violence, so just be aware of that going forward. So, let's get into it. So to be succinct, in this scene, Tina lets Bette know that she knows all about the affair, and as a response, Bette tries to get closer to Tina to hold on to her, and things quickly get violent between them, which then progresses to sexual violence. So to be honest with you guys, I have a lot of conflicting emotions about this scene. It's incredibly raw and messy. Some of it is engaging, and some of it is really uncomfortable. And I really have to commend both Jennifer and Laurel for their commitment and vulnerability in this scene, because whatever your opinions on it, it's so incredibly powerful. Now, Laurel has actually spoken about this scene herself, and she said in an interview with After Ellen, "That's probably hands down one of the hardest scenes I've ever shot. But Jennifer was great, and we had Tony Goldwyn, who was very patient because he was also an actor. I think he took a lot of time. We rehearsed it, and we blocked it, and we talked about it." A lot of people saw that scene as some version of a rape, but if you really pay attention to what happens in the scene, it's full of anger and grief and sadness. And Tina actually puts Bette's hand inside of her, so it's not a rape. She's trying to find any last bit of empowerment. That turns on itself in a sexual situation, and Bette is just trying to get forgiveness out of it and love back. And she's going through grief and loss and like, "I didn't mean to hurt you," trying to reconnect. One of the reasons we did shoot that is because we also wanted to show that in relationships, it's not always sweet and tender sex. And when you get something as dark as a betrayal in such a long-term partnership in there, the sex is going to turn dark. And it did. And no one had really shot that. I think they've probably shot it in movies, in heterosexual scenes and stuff, but not really in any lesbian scenes that I've seen. It wasn't like we intended to make anything super dark. That's what organically started to happen. I think Jennifer also came away from it being very proud of that scene because it was so difficult. And to be honest, for the most part, I kind of agree with what Laurel has to say. It's a very, very intense scene, and there's a lot of emotional and physical layers to it. There's also the consideration that the L Word sought to reflect real life relationships, and in real life, sometimes sex can take a very dark turn. So it's valid for the show to reflect that. It's not always light and frothy and safe, right? To be honest with you though, I do perceive this scene as Bette sexually assaulting Tina. And as far as I'm concerned, there's no excuse for that. It doesn't really matter what Bette's motivations for the assault were, because there's nothing which makes it justifiable. I do agree with Laurel that at some point it did become consensual, and the fact that it became consensual stopped it going to an even darker place. Although you could argue in that situation, there's no such thing as consent because the consent was not given in the first place, so it doesn't even matter that it later on became consensual. And I see what she's saying about how it was a struggle for control and a struggle for power within that situation. But even looking at it in that way, Bette still sexually assaulted Tina, and it can't really be diminished just because there were emotional layers to what was happening. Also, a question that I have is that if it didn't become consensual at one point, and if Tina hadn't consented, would Bette have carried on? I think that's a really interesting question, and it's one I'd like to ask Eileen, because that would have been a very, very different kind of scene, right? That would be a whole other conversation. And the thing is, we know Bette has this dark darker side to her. We know that there's toxic elements to the Bette and Tina relationship. And I think a lot of us do sweep it under the carpet because we, A, love Bette Porter. We be forgiving her for things. But B, we love their relationship. So I think we kind of sweep a lot of the more toxic elements under the carpet so we can just enjoy all the good things. Like, I do it myself. I definitely ignore some of their more toxic behaviors. But I also think their toxic behaviors are what makes their relationship such an interesting point of conversation and why they elicit so many diverse opinions. People tend to love or hate these two. They do. To be honest, whilst I do think that Bette can be very toxic as a character, I don't think she's ever really been past the point of redemption. We know she doesn't always act right. She's quite a flawed human being. But aren't we all? And there's a kind of relatability to a lot of what she does and the way that she behaves at times, especially that self-destructive element of hers. Oh yeah. In any case, this scene is absolutely the most intense Bette and Tina scene out of the entire L Word series, 100%. And I'm blown away by just how vulnerable and raw this scene is every time that I see it. Both Laurel and Jennifer really acted the house down with this scene, and I can't imagine the emotional toll this scene took on the both of them. I believe Jennifer has said that it's seared into her brain, and I'm not surprised. It's definitely not a scene I rewatch of theirs very often because it is very dark and uncomfortable. But when I do come across it, I'm reminded of just how powerful it is. And I don't think I've ever seen anything else quite like it on television. So yes, those are my thoughts on that scene. Let me know your own thoughts down in the comment section below. Oh no. If you want to support lesbian content and women's voices, come and join the Sapphic Underground Club. Just come and join it. Why did my voice go so high? It's pretty much just like a monthly tip for the content that I put out. And boy, do I put out. Don't forget to subscribe for instant disappointment, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.